Good morning. Today we are finishing our Unit 9. We are finished. This is our last objective about those geometric shapes. We've been learning about perimeters and areas. Today we are learning how to classify those solid figures, those three-dimensional shapes, not the flat ones that we've been talking about, not the circles and squares and triangles. We are talking about the three-dimensional shapes. We're going to classify them and identify their faces, edges, and vertices. So we are on CO71. So the first thing we need to do is talk about what a solid is. A solid is the shape or figure that has at least three dimensions to it. So when we think about the circle, the square, the triangle, they lay flat. You can't really hold that in your hand. It's just flat. It's two-dimensional. It's just on that grid, that plane. A solid figure is something that you hold in your hand. The ball, it's a sphere. The box, it's a rectangular prism. Okay, so it's those things that you can hold, and that's what our solid figure is. It's not laying flat. So on that solid figure, we have different parts to it. So we have the face, which is the flat surface. So when we look at that solid figure, look for your flat surfaces, those sides. So the flat surface would be the sides of our figure, every single side. So if you think of the dice, that cube, every side, there are 6 sides to our dice. So there are 6 faces, each side of the dice. The edge is the line segment where 2 faces meet. So when we're looking, our faces are the sides, every single side. The edge is that line where one side meets another side. This is our edge, where the sides meet each other, those lines.
It's always those lines.
So the edges are always the lines. Why do you think we have some as solid lines here and some as dashes? Rizici?
Because it's like the shape is 3D, so you can't really just draw a line.
Yeah, so it's what's on the back side, right? So if we're looking at the Kleenex box, you see the front and maybe part of the top and maybe part of a side of the Kleenex box. You don't see the back side. You don't see the bottom. So that's why we have those dotted lines to show what is in the back of that box that you can't see when you look at it from the front. That's still an edge. Still an edge, even though it was a dotted line, it's still an edge. It's still where that back faces meet each other. So we've talked about the face, which is the flat side. We've talked about the edges where those flat sides meet. Then we have the vertex. The vertex is the actual point where several planes meet. In a point. And we call this the corner. So when you're counting your vertices, you're counting how many corners are there. So where everything meets up, all of the corners that we can see in the front, that are in the back. So you count every corner. So we have our face, which is the flat sides. You have the edges where those flat sides meet, those lines. Then we have the vertex, which is all the corners. So not only do we have to be able to find the face, the edge, and the vertex, we need to be able to classify each solid. So we need to give the solid its name. So we're going to be learning what the names of these different solid shapes are. These are the same shapes that we see in our math packets when we find the volume, the length, the width, and the height. You know, we're multiplying those together to find our volumes, that page in our math packet. Each of those shapes have a specific name to them. So I'm going to scroll up so we can look at and learn what the specific names to each of these solid shapes are. Because on the test, you need to know what those names are. You do. Test is on Thursday. We need to know these names. Can you put the names on your help sheet? Yep. You can put the names on the help sheet so you can remember what they are. This first one, what name do you think we call that? Ziki? Not a square. A square lays flat. A square is that two-dimensional. What is it when it's a solid shape? It is called a cube. If you just say square, you're just talking about one face of it. We want the whole entire shape. So how many faces does a cube have, Bennett? 6. We have the top, we have the bottom, we have the front side, the back side, and both of those sides. So there are 6 faces altogether. Now we need to count how many edges.
12.
So do we count each dash separately?
No.
No, that dash is a line. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there are 12 edges. Not the last one is the vertices. How many corners are there, Olivia? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You are correct. There are 8 vertices. Every cube will always have 6 faces, 12 edges, and 8 vertices. What is our next shape? Bennett? Very good. We know it's got that rectangle, but we can't just call it a rectangle because that's the flat two-dimensional. So we call it a rectangular prism. So it's a rectangular prism. How many faces does a rectangular prism have? Aiden? How many edges does it have? Enzo?
4.
And how many vertices does it have, Matthew? 8. Oh, those are the same. Why would a cube have the same as a rectangular prism? Ethan?
A rectangular prism is just a cube stretched out.
Or
A cube is always a rectangular prism, just like a square is always a rectangle. So a rectangle isn't always a cube. So that's why we call it a rectangular prism. Anything that's that shape, stretched out, smushed together, a rectangular prism. Just like a square is always a rectangle, a cube is always a rectangular prism, but we have to give it its precise name. Please stop, gentlemen. Our next shape, look at what the flat shape is. What do you think we're going to call this one, Isabel? A triangular prism, because we can see that there are triangles on it. How many faces does a triangular prism have? James? 5. It has 5. It has its bottom. There is no top. We have that side. We have that long flat side. And then we have the back side. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we've got the bottom and we've got the front side. The front and the back. the bottom, this side to the left, and the long slanty side to the right. There are 5 sides all there. So the bottom, and then there's the back side, the front side, the square. So we've got, let's look it through. We've got our rectangle is 1. Then we have our slanted rectangle, so that would be 2. Then we have our square in the back is 3. Then we have the front triangle and the back triangle for 4 and 5. Okay. How many edges are there? Amelia.
9.
So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Very good. And when you're counting them out, go ahead and trace over it like that. So you make sure you're counting every edge. Trace over the edge as you're counting. How many vertices are there? Riziki.
6.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Very good. Notice how I'm circling those corners. Circle the corners so you make sure you don't miss any or forget any. So that is our cube, our rectangular prism, and our triangular prism. Next, we've got 3 more shapes, 4 more shapes. Whew. What is this one that looks like a can? Melina.
Cylinder.
Cylinder. Oops. These are shapes that you have learned in the past. We're coming back to them. How many faces are there on a cylinder? Melina. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at Riziki. For whatever reason I said Melina. Riziki. So what is a face? A face is a flat surface. So there are only 2 flat surfaces. There are 2 faces. That side is curved, wrapping around. You can't count a curved side because it is not flat. It is curved. How many edges are there? Amelia?
2.
So, an edge is a line segment where 2 faces meet. So we have 1 face up here and 1 face down here. Is there a line segment where they meet?
No.
There's not. So we would say 0. How many vertices are there? Nora? 0. There are no corners. Do you have a question or you want to do the next one? Luciana, what is our next one?
Sphere.
Yeah, that ball shape is a sphere. How many faces does a sphere have? Olivia? 0. There is no flat surface. It is all round. How many edges does it have, Matthew? Matthew? How many vertices does it have, Nolan?
0.
What is our next shape? Aiden.
A cone.
It is a cone. How many faces does a cone have? Ethan?
1.
1, just on the bottom there. How many edges does it have? Amelia?
No idea.
Because remember that edge is where 2 faces meet. If there's only 1 edge, it can't meet another face. How many vertices does it have? Nolan?
1.
Because remember that vertex is the point where several planes meet. It doesn't say faces. It's not where faces meet. It's where the planes meet. So we could count that as 1. What? You moved on. We're not there yet. Patience, friend. Patience. Okay, one last shape. What is our last shape called, JT? Pyramid.
Oh.
How many faces does our pyramid have? Matthew. We have the bottom, or one. Then we have the back side, and the front side. So we have 5 faces altogether. How many edges does it have? JT? 8. So we have the 4 on the bottom, 5, 6, 7, and 8. How many vertexes does it have? And actually, I'm rethinking the cone. Our cone actually doesn't have any vertex. Because it's not a plane, it's rounded. Because it's all rounded.
Yeah.
We can't count that. The pyramid has a point because we have those planes are all meeting. The cone is not a vertex. It is the tip of the cone, but there's no flat plane meeting it. So that was my bad. There is no flat planes on the cone that meet up. So there is no vertex. But on our pyramid, we can count that as a vertex because it is a flat plane. How many vertexes altogether are there, Olivia? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Any questions on our shapes? Well, hold on. We're looking back. This cone, for whatever reason, I'm gonna blame it on my sunburn. It's throwing me off because I'm looking at our work on the second page, and it says there is a shape that has 1 vertex. So what shape has 1 vertex? So I'm gonna look that up, and I'm gonna see because it says a vertex is where the planes meet. A cone, it's actually curved.
But it still has a point.
Yeah, so that's what's throwing me off. So, what shape has 1 vertex? So, even though the definition of the vertex is where the planes meet, I was right originally and I second guessed myself. So, I second guessed myself and I should not have. They do consider this a vertex because it's the point, even though it's not flat sides that meet, it is that point. So because it is the point, they call it a vertex. So my apologies, I have gone back and forth on that. Again, I'm blaming my sunburn. We all have our moments. So we looked it up. A cone has 1 vertex.
Can we put one?
We did, and then I second guessed it and said, wait, it's not a flat side. Is that a vertex? And I said, maybe it's not. And then I looked it up. Yes. Yes, it is. Okay. So on our second page, so make sure you have that there's 1 vertex for the cone. On our second page, you're going to look back at how we answered our different shapes. And you're going to say, which shape is it? If I have 5 faces and 6 vertices, what am I? You're going to put that shape name. So put the shape names that fit for each question. And then you're going to write a riddle for the solid that is not described above. We have 7 solids on that first page. There's 1 that you don't put as an answer because there are only 6 riddles. So for that 7th one, you create a riddle that's similar, talking about the faces, the edges, the vertices. Write out what would that 1 shape that you haven't answered yet, what would you put for that? And then you're going to review with your perimeters and areas and circumferences. Ooh, going back to our angles. So we've got some good review going on this page. Any questions? So this is silent work time. When you are done working on this, you work on your Khan Academy, you work on your math packet. Silent work time. Thank you to those of you not moving while I'm still recording. This is quiet. For those of you listening at home, we hope you are well. We hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.